NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck yeah attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst you legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight. Hey gang, so I got a new book out. It's called The Upside of Fear, and it's exactly what you think it's about. It's about the good side of, well, getting scared. In it, we talk not only about the science and biology behind fear, but the psychology as well. And it's not just coming from me, it's coming from some of the best in the sport. Omar Alhigelan, Jeff Provenzano, Maxine Tate, and so many more have contributed their sometimes terrifying stories to the book to help you overcome your fear. So head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com. You're going to find the link to the book there, as well as the other books. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook right now.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! Back in the can with another edition of the Lunatic Fringe podcast and our new friend on the other side of the planet. Who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
Hey, buddy, what's going on? My name is Vince Jarvis. I'm a bit of a master at none in the sport of the air sports, but I try to dabble in as much as I can, So I'm a tandem instructor. I'm an AFF instructor, free fly coach, dabble in a little bit of swooping, and lately sort of just stepping into the world of wingsuit piloting as well. So pretty much just here to have a good time, mate.
I'll tell you what, though, that seems to be the recipe for success is I don't need to be a master at all disciplines in skydiving to have a fuck ton of fun.
Yeah, exactly. I'm from Australia. I'm from South Australia. We come from small Cessna drop zones as well, so I was very aware at the start of my career that if I wanted to take this on as a full-time career, job, or full-time passion, I would probably have to go somewhere where everyone's charging, where I kind of like the small drop zone, the club mentality, the tight friends and crew, the beers afterwards. I'm more into that than trying to be anyone or anything in this sport, at the moment. So just a full-time frother, really.
Nice, man. I mean, honestly, having been on both the big, crazy, intense drop zones and the very small clubs, I like them both at different times, but it is a completely different vibe, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like I do a lot of both, because like Australia has so many good events. We have so many high class and quality coaches and events that happen around the place. So I do a lot of jumping at home. I do a lot of, tandems and coaching and like fun jumping. And then I also make sure that I attend a lot of events to keep my skills up. Um, and just to make sure I don't, like get bored or start to burn out, in any
Sure.
one of my disciplines.
Sure. Well, it's funny because the podcast now has spent quite a lot of time down under. I've been lucky enough to talk to a bunch of both hard charging jumpers and relaxed folks from there, and then people that are just next door in New Zealand that are you guys bouncing back and forth. And I know there's a lot of Aussie transplants in New Zealand and vice versa, and it's a great mentality that's going on from the small mom and pop stuff all the way to stuff like Funny Farm, which has become internationally famous for being fucking insane.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that was one of my goals when I started skydiving was to be able to get invited like to a funny farm, right? This was like the pinnacle that we used to look at when we're like, especially me when I started, all of my heroes, from around like my country were all shredding at Funny Farm, right? So that was
Yeah.
the goal. And I was lucky enough that a couple of years ago, I got the ticket and I got the invite to go to Funny Farm. And oh my God, it was wild. I've heard you talk about this exact event before with like Scotty Hisco and all those boys. I
Yeah.
was at the one where they had, like all the moto boys, Harry Bink doing the flips, and the planes and the paragliders and the things. We sat there on the beanbags watching that shit go down. I was just like, where am I?
Yep.
What is happening? This
Yep.
is one of those it was one of those moments when I was like a big tick for me. I was just like, cool, I made it, and seems to be the year that it's going off. So
Oh,
that was pretty cool.
even just talking about that event and that particular event that you were at's come up a few times on the podcast because I had one of the motocross guys, Top Dog, was on.
Yeah,
And we talked about, I had seen one of the photos from the event that was the most mental fucking picture I've ever seen. I want to say it was either a helicopter or a plane, a couple of motocross bikes in the air, canopies, people on the ground, all in one fucking picture. And he was like, yeah, that wasn't even planned. We were just snapping pictures and that happened to be what was in the frame. And you're like,
yeah, yeah.
what? Holy shit.
We were sitting there and all those moto boys, Harry Bink and that, they were all just started and they were pretty new to like the skydiving scene there, and because everyone there, half of them are very experienced, most of them are instructors. These boys were putting some jumps down and stuff and we're like having a like, keeping an eye on these boys, like watching them jump. So, oh, all right, we're gonna watch these boys because they're doing some, some pretty good and bad decision making, some jumping, and then
Sure.
they go and set up the ramp and like start doing the stuff they do. So they got a bit of a tick from everyone that was there. I was like, oh, if you're ready to,
Yeah.
double flip our swoop pond, like by all means, jump in the plane with some of Australia's best free flyers.
I mean, absolutely, why not? Yeah, I remember hearing about that event and then that particular funny farm and then doing a little bit more research and going, yeah, all right, that's like my memory of some of the crazy shit that we were doing back in the early 2000s. It seems to still be going strong down under.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the APF like to keep their finger on some things, but we're skydivers. We're
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
middle of
yeah.
the outback. We like to do a lot of things. It's pretty cool. And
Well, and
that
that's
that reminds me of
go ahead, go ahead.
all those motocross boys. Like forever, I've like talked to all my friends and I've met new people and stuff, and they're like skydiver and base jumper and doing all the things. Like you must be super crazy. I was like, everything I do is like I've trained for. We check the weather. Like nothing super too out of
Right.
out of the norm of like poor and dangerous like decision making. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, I've watched, like the Krusty Diegemans come to town and these dudes like double flipping and crashing all the time. Said, I don't think skydiving, is crazy. Dudes who are flipping bikes are crazy. And that's
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you see the dudes that are rock up who are flipping bikes, right? They rock up to that vent and watch us, or the jumps we're doing, lay down some big swoops on the pond and come in sliding. It's like, you dudes are nuts. I was like, it really just goes to show, like it's everyone sort of looks at something else that you're not quite, like into or understand. And it seems crazy until you start to get into it. I have this good
Absolutely.
saying now. Yeah. Have a good saying now where I was just like, I try not to shut down anyone's passion, like no matter what it is, never yuck anyone's yum or what they're into and stuff. Cause it's like, if you get the same passion I get from jumping out of a plane or off a cliff by playing golf or computer games, if you like froth it as much as I do this, all for you. I will never shut down anyone's things. And that's good conversation starting out. I'm like, what do you like to do? And if some people, say like anything, I was like, sweet, why do you love it? Like, what's your passion? Why
Yeah.
is that like tick your boxes? Because I'm so interested to know what makes people tick.
Well, and it's really funny too when you see it from different perspectives. And it's funny you mentioned, being a skydiver and seeing somebody doing another, extreme sport that seems completely mental to us, and they think we're the mental ones. And I mean, I've had conversations with big wave surfers and motocross guys, and I mean, people that just are fucking hucking it over the edge and going for broke. And I'm a bit like you in that I think there's a whole lot of pre-preparation and safety that goes into a skydive. Whereas, charging over the lip of a massive fucking wave, that's just faith as far as I'm concerned. I know there's a lot of skill involved, but I've watched enough YouTube videos of people getting eaten by big waves that you're like, fuck me, man, that's just mental. And to have one of those guys, come to somebody like you or me that's just a skydiver, and they're like, you're out of your mind. It kind of, I hate to say it, but it makes your pride bubble up a little bit. You're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, for sure. We've all been the same. Like, again, every skydiver's been through the same thing. You start, you just want to tell everyone, like what you've been up to on the weekend, that you're a jumper, and then after a while you get sick of having that conversation. So you like try to, not so much play it down, but try to avoid the conversation unless it comes up. Because when it comes up is really someone who does something themselves and kind of understands, because how many times you answer the same question of like, why do you want to jump out of a good plane? That's
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right? As soon as the subject gets turned to skydiving, that's usually the subject on the table for quite some time.
yeah, for sure.
You just know the next hour is going to be about skydiving, at least.
Yeah. I find if like, you're having like conversations with new people and they're bringing up like their passions and what they're into, if it's like a real genuine human that you might have a solid like connection with, it to me it's like it works so much better in your favor if like you chat for an hour about life and careers and that sort of stuff, and then it comes up. But
Yeah,
when it comes up there, you've already explained who you are as a person, so you're not connected to I'm just a skydiver, base jumper, whatever.
exactly.
Have that nice connection, and then once it comes up like naturally later on, they're also like, oh, and you do like that, like that's fucking cool, that
Yeah.
works better.
No, I completely agree. Now, while we're on the subject of getting around to how we start in these things, how did you get started, both in skydiving and in anything else that's extreme? I mean, other than living in Australia.
Yeah. By chance, it was I had a mate who was, not that I was fully aware, we're not a super close mate. We used to go like snorkeling and like, sort of free diving because I live on like down the coast. So we would dive for abalone and stuff. He would teach me how to do that. He was a Maori fella. And after we connected and hung out for a while, he told me that he'd kind of just started like skydiving. He was packing parachutes, to make some money to get through the course and stuff. And I can't remember if I've told this story Phil before. I can't remember if it was like I went to go pick him up from work or we went to go hang out, or for some reason it was like, come to the drop zone. This is where I'm working, like come pick me up or something like that. So I rocked up and I'm just walking around the place. It was a little aerodrome down in Goolwa down the coast. So I'm walking around checking everything out, and his boss Gazzy, which is subsequently one of the bosses that I work for now, just come around. We had a good chat and stuff. And he goes, "Oh, you want to go for a jump, mate of his? Like, I'll give you a little half price jump if you want to go like right now." I was like, "Sweet." I was probably around like 20 or 21 at the time. And we were skateboarders, we were free divers, you know, so we had a heap of good skateboarding mates. Like, jump in the plane. So I was like, "Sweet, cool, you know, I'll go for it right now." So we literally geared up, jumped in the plane. My mate Torn came and jumped with the tandem. So he must have had a good enough license to jump with us now, I recall that. But he came through, we deployed the parachute. I watched him just disappear, right? Because he obviously kept free fall. No one told me this. I'm like, canopies open, full panic, just watching him disappear till I can't see him anymore. So I was like, my mate. And it's like, "It's all good, it's all sweet." And it wasn't until I've landed, he's there giving me high fives, that I realized everything was all good and all sweet. And then as soon as that happened, I called up all my mates, all my skateboarding mates and stuff, like, "Boys, I've found the next thing. You know, like, you're all going to come and experience this. It's just down the road at the airport," like skydiving, and explained it to them. And they were like, "Yeah, all right." So I got a couple of friends. We went for the next jump. And once I landed, I was just like, they let me like reach back and, you know, like pull the hacky and stuff and like have a look at the altimeter with the fist, you know, because I was pretty interested in why I was there. And as soon as I landed, I was like, that second time, I was like, "Oh, cool. How do you pack the parachutes? Like, where does this go? Where's the pilot?" You know, things. And I wasn't a super inquisitive person at that time, but this whole world was just like, I can't believe this is in the town I live in, and you guys are all just like doing this for fun.
Right.
So I chatted to the few of the instructors and stuff, and it's like, "Man, you're so keen. Like, you should think about doing your AFF and take this up as like a weekend hobby." I was like, "You just do this every weekend for fun? Like, it's not just a business like thing?" So I had no idea, obviously, as most people do, that this is a weekend hobby sport, you know. I pretty much just like, once I explained you can do it solo on your next jump, I'm pretty sure I just gave him my credit card right there and then.
You know, I'll tell you, one of my favorite things about the sport is, I mean, I started jumping, I did my first tandem in 96. So it's been a minute since I did that first jump. And I remember thinking, you know, you feel like you're fucking one of the first men to walk on the moon, right? You're like, I can't believe
Yeah.
I've discovered this amazing thing. And of course, everyone else is on the drop zone going, "Man, we've been doing this for quite a while." And now here I
Yeah.
am, you know, 29 almost years later. And I love the fact that the stories are still being told that I discovered skydiving. I had no idea. And it's now opened up this huge world, and it happens to every generation, right? It's like, yeah, I kind of heard about skydiving, I knew something about it, and then I did it, and holy shit, it was so much better than I expected.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good point, that discovery. Everyone gets their own journey and gets to discover it for themselves, you know. Like, I've been jumping for maybe, what is it, like 12 years now. And, you know, that was before the time where, you know, we didn't all have, you know, like an iPhone in our pocket. We didn't have YouTube, you know, or like maybe it might have been out, but I wasn't searching how to
Sure.
jump out of a plane at that time. You know, I was searching, you know, like handrails and how to like kickflip down a 10 stair for skateboarding. And that was my
Right.
thing. And then I remember like kind of the end of my skateboarding journey, it was like starting to try and push the limits for, you know, like bigger things and bigger tricks. And I just remember just eating concrete so many times, you know, like I was like, I'm kind of getting sick of the pain of this. And then like skydiving happened, and I went through like multiple years of like, you know, good landings and, you know, like going through that. And that's what takes me back to those motocross dudes. They're breaking bones all the time. They're hurting
Yeah.
themselves so much. If you're good at skydiving and you're like very calculated in the way you go about it, you can spend a lot of time, like, you know, fingers crossed, you know, like reasonably injury free, you know,
Oh yeah.
like,
Oh man, it's been a while since I've jumped, still recovering from some surgeries and stuff, but I will easily toss a rig on my back and hop out of an airplane without nearly the level of nerves that would dive into my system if I tried to get on a fucking skateboard and ride down a hill.
yeah, for sure.
I'd be terrified. And I grew up
Yeah.
when, you know, skateboarding was really taking off way back as a kid. And you never saw anybody land a trick back then. It was always you ate shit and you went to bed bleeding every fucking night if you did that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I lived like right down the beach, down the coast, down in Victor, and it would like I'd have to skate home from the skate park as well, like most of the times. And that might be like a 20, half an hour like skate. So you'd do a full session at the park, you'd beat yourself up, your ankles were absolutely wrecked, you're hurting. I was like, now I'm gonna make it home. Like some days it'd be like, call mum's like, no, you need to come get me, because I'm like, I can't make that trip home.
Yeah, the walking wounded all the time. So
Did you make it through your career reasonably injury free?
in skydiving, yeah, I mean, I had a couple of injuries just from sheer stupidity. I had taken about 6 months off jumping my sport rig. I'd only been doing tandems and flying, and hopped back on my velo at the time. I think I was flying a 96, like I had been on it the day before, and of course set up for the standard 270 that I was doing, and was low out of it, and broke my tailbone. But that's uh, yeah, that and a broken leg early on in the sport were the only real injuries that I had from stupid shit. Um, it was 20 something years of a lot of video and camera work that trashed my neck. So it definitely put a hurt on me, but nothing that I didn't earn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I have one pretty shitty landing, but again, it was out of like pure stupidity. We had like a boogie in an event going on, and like the weekend before, I was like at a party, and I jumped down like this tiny little step at my mate's house, and his dad had laid down all these drains just to check out where it was, and because it was dark, I literally folded my ankle in half.
Ooh.
Couldn't walk, like it was real bad, like on crutches sort of thing. And we had this massive event. We had a caravan come over because, like, most of the time we're only a Cessna drop zone, 182s and 206 sort of drop zone. So that came over, and I was like, I'll just go and support all my friends. I can't really walk. I'll go and just hang out and just chill and froth regardless. And just as I'm about to leave home, I grab my rig and just chuck it in the back seat. I was like, it's, you're one of those ones. Like the event goes for like 5 or 6 days. Like, if I rest, maybe I'll be okay, which I was not. And then like halfway through, I was like frothing out, watching everyone jump. I was like, if I slide in on my ass with my leg up, I should be fine. What's the reason I'm not going for a free fall? So convince myself from just like missing out on the froth. We get like a bit of a long spot. All the flatties take 3 times longer than they should have, to get out. Look out, sweet, cool, 2-way, head down, jump out, and have one of the best like head down jumps I'd had like at the time. Super frothing, open the parachute. Oh, we are a long way, from the landing area. So fly as far back as I can. And in SA, like all of the drop zones are surrounded by like salt pans, farmland, like can land anywhere, right? Can land anywhere. Because the fact I couldn't walk, I was like, I'm going to fly as close as I can to the drop zone so I can hobble my ass back inside without too much of a drop. So I come across like the runway, get a bit of turbulence, hot day, start to turn into wind, get a big bump and like decide that a low turn is, probably not the best idea. Just run it out a little bit downwind. And at that point in time, just had no idea how fast, maybe like 10 knots downwind is actually going to be. Never experienced a downwind. Knew that all the super boys ran rears as they to trim out. So like I've watched you all do that. I'll try that a little bit. Just like totally freaked out and pretty much just flared the rears, and from high meterage at high speed, full collapse, and just like fully just impacted, like on my ass, bounced down the side of the runway. Tried to get up and didn't really work for me. Couldn't really get up. So I'm kind of laying in the sun, ants on me, fully baking in the sun on a warm day. So like try to take my rig off, try to unzip my jumpsuit, and then back in the day I'm wearing a cheap jumpsuit. So it's probably made out of trash and boiling me while I'm laying there. And my mate Lee rocks up. He's like, how's it going, mate? Like, had a bit of a rough landing. I'm like, help. Help me now. And he's trying to let me stay. I was like, because I've been there for so long, I was like, get me up now, put me in the ute. Takes me back to the DZ, and the girl Bria I was actually doing the head down jump with comes out, checks me out while I'm in the back of the ute and stuff, and realised it's a bit of spinal pain. Calls the ambo, and I'm very grateful that she was there and did that, because they come and put a pump up sort of, like mattress around me and chucked me in the ambo. And then I sort of realised that I'd, like pretty badly broken a couple of vertebrae at one T12 and done a fair bit of damage in that area. So I was kind of like came to at the hospital with my mum and girlfriend at the time there, my sister all looking all pretty worried. And I'm all sweet, guys, like, no worries, like, worth it for the jump sort of thing, like dumb decisions.
I mean, I understand that mentality. I completely understand because, as I had mentioned, I broke my leg early on in the sport, but I broke my leg on jump number one. That did not, yeah, that did not keep me off the jump number two load. So right
No.
there with you, we've all done some stupid shit in the sport, but it's kind of funny too because then you're laying there in the hospital bed trying to justify the fact that you'd done it in the first place, and there's no justifying it. We're just fucking idiots. But I mean, we're lucky idiots too, right? Because it could have been so much worse.
I'm so glad that I could still experience the rest of my jumping and traveling career after that, because that could have very well been my last skydive right then and
Sure.
there. And but I also think that mentality of just like, like at that time, all I wanted to do was jump and go hard and stuff. And I think that mentality that also got me in the shit has also got me through 4,000 skydives and,
Sure.
and continued like for all this jumping. And this is another lesson I get to teach like my students or other fun jumpers around the drop zone, who come up and be like, oh, this is kind of giving me problems, but like I'm pretty keen to jump. And I'm like,
Yep.
cool, I'm not going to be the one to tell you not to, but here's my story.
Yeah.
I had to take 16, I took 16 weeks off, like, not all of that laying in bed, but a good majority of it laying in bed, missing out because I couldn't miss out on, sunset loaded a boogie.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's the classic de-license hold, right? The wind is gusting and it's fucked up and it's nasty outside, and you see all the de-license guys cracking a beer and all the A and B's trying to get on the load, and you're like, maybe you take a cue from the people that have been there because we've got some stories for you.
Yeah.
There is some information to impart here, and that's the thing, right? Is at some point you had to make the decision to jump out of an airplane, which a lot of non-jumpers will argue is just stupid to start with. So you've already shown that you're willing to take a risk for a little bit of fun. So it's kind of in our DNA. So it's not surprising that skydivers, especially when they're super stoked on the sport, are going to make maybe not the greatest decisions, which is when having those mentors like you now on the drop zone with the stories of the time shit went sideways is huge if people are willing to listen.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want people not to make dumb decisions because, like, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
like, try and do them some sort of a smarter way, or just like, let me help you make dumb decisions.
Yeah. So now, what was the plan before skydiving? What was life going to be before you started jumping?
Yeah, so like I said, we're only like little Cessna drop zone. So even when I started working, I've always held a full-time job, like for the whole entire time. I've actually worked at the same company. Like I'm an earth mover. I drive big excavators and dump trucks and that sort of big, like kids' toys, but just still in real life. So I've never really
Sure.
got to grow up. So I'm still at the same job that I left from high school. So I'm about 18 years straight in the same job. And I love it. And every time I think about going somewhere else, I get a good deal and it helps me travel and go everywhere else. But sort of what I was getting at is like skydiving was always a weekend thing. The skateboarding was massive in my life at that sort of time. I'm very much at that time, I was very much into music and hip hop and started to, like make a little bit of music sort of thing. So honestly, I was thinking about this the other day when someone had a similar question. I said, if I never found skydiving, I'd probably be into music, maybe making music. That was a big passion of mine at that time. I'm into to motorsport, some cars, So when
Nice.
I'm not jumping, I've got a couple of Harleys that I like to ride. And
Nice.
Adelaide's just got one of the biggest world class tracks and drag venue that's just open at the Bend. So it's probably one of the world class tracks, and not far from the DZ that I grew up from around the corner. So. Got cars, got a Skyline that I've taken out there a couple of times as well. So a little bit of
Nice.
motorsport, a little bit of music. So I think that would have been my direction if it wasn't stung by the skylife bug.
Well, and I'd imagine with a job like yours, in a place like Australia, there's got to be opportunities from coast to coast.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, we have so many big, like, mining towns and places to go. That was kind of my plan when I was a little bit younger. I said, I'll get all my licenses, I'll go away, I'll spend time in the middle of nowhere and then make some coin. And that was the decision until skydiving literally
Okay.
changed that decision for me.
Yeah.
Which was probably a blessing because at that point in time, some of the crew that I was working with who chose that lifestyle, they were every time I'd see them, they were miserable, like proper miserable. They'd do their 2 weeks on, they'd come back and they would miss everyone's birthday event and that sort of thing. And I was like, cool, I'll just push that back for a while I'm learning to skydive. I'll get, I'll get to a point where I'm confident I can go anywhere and do it. And then I'll go away. And then like the more that I didn't go, the more I thought that was a bit of a shit decision for me as a person and my personality, just to be tucked away in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
And then when it actually when instructing started, because I had like a few hundred jumps and I was starting to teach people angles and a bit of free flight just as a fun jumper. Got an AF rating just to try and help out because I was kind of doing it anyway. So got an AF rating to help that process out. And then was so into free flying and going to events when the chief instructor and one of my friends, Hendo, was like floated the idea about the tandem rating. And I was so offered at the time because being a small town, and well, every drop zone has this really, seeing some of the older instructors starting to burn out, not super happy on skydiving, having families. And I just watched one after the other slowly stop jumping or stop being in love with jumping and then eventually starting to burn out. And I'm like, that would never be me. I won't allow myself to put myself in that decision.
Sure.
So when we started doing the rating, I remember calling him and said, I'm pulling out. I'm not doing it. I don't want to sell my soul. I'm just going to be a fun jumper. Because I had a normal job. Like I had some money. I wasn't a skydive bum. I didn't need to make,
Yeah.
ends meet. And because we're only jumping weekends, like it's like if I'm doing tandems, I can't fun jump.
Right. It was kind of funny because I ended up falling into the tandem hole, but for me, I was lucky in that it never burned me out and it didn't turn me off of the sport because I found out I enjoyed doing tandem so much, which seemed really weird at the time because when I first began, I fucking hated the idea of it. I thought it just looked like a terrible way to jump out of an airplane and terrifying, and you never knew what you were going to get. And all those things that turned me away from it turned out to be the things that I liked the most. So even to this day, if you ask me what my favorite way to jump is, it's taking tandems, which is just fucking weird. But it really is. It's so much fun.
I 100% agree. So the end of that conversation is I didn't pull out of that rating. I did it and I loved it. And
Right?
still, after, like 5 years, I don't know, I might have like 1,500 tandems now, which is not a lot, but it's a small drop zone and I'm a fun jumper instructor. So and I love it.
Yeah.
I still love it every single time. And I'm the one that's like where we work and like I'm the one who like does all the briefs, the debriefs, films the cameras because I'm energetic and I'm excited and the passengers understand that. And they're like, how good's your office? How good's your job? Imagine getting to do this for a job. And then just watching people's reaction to that reminds me of how epic it is that I get to take people for their first jumps or seconds and give them that opportunity. It's
You're mainlining a first experience on every jump.
yeah, for sure.
It's the closest you can get to doing your first jump over again. And you get to do it God knows how many times a day. I mean, granted, in my heyday in Cross Keys, when you're on tandem number 25 or 26 on a Saturday, you're a little fucking tired, but it's still, you're giving someone this amazing experience. And I've said it before on the show, there's, I don't know, 7,500, 8,000 people out there who I guarantee couldn't pick me out of a lineup and don't remember my name, but they remember that jump.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree.
It's fucking cool. So you get into the instructing, you get into AFF, and you start doing tandems and all that stuff, but you've tried to branch out as well for your own stuff in the sport. And you mentioned wingsuiting and all that. Where did that start to come about, and when did you start to have the drive to do more?
Um, I used to give wingsuiters shit for so long. As a lot of people did, like, because, like I said, I was a fun jumper, and then once I did like my instructor ratings, I was like, cool, that's the way to supplement my income and not have to spend every dollar I've ever spent, like on skydiving. So I'm super glad that happened. But I was a dedicated fun jumper, free flyer. I would go to a lot of good camps around Australia. We have Down Under Dynamics around here, which is run by Mason Corby, which was like my skydive hero forever, still is, absolute legend. So because I'm on a little Cessna drop zone, I would just make sure that now I'm making money from these instructor jumps, like I'm going to use that to better my fun jumping. Because like I said, I was a fun jumper. That was an instructor. Like that was my plan. So a lot of camps each year, a lot of Down Under Dynamics. We were very late to the sort of the tunnel scene, like over here in the middle of the desert. We had one tunnel in Australia, and they were charging like $1,500 for like 1 hour's flight time, when it opens, So it was like, it was so expensive that if I was going to book a couple of hours in tunnel, it worked out. There's like, I can travel to pretty much anywhere in the world to an established tunnel and get a free holiday there because it's $1,000 an hour instead of, like $1,500. So that took me to a lot of crazy places. I went to Poland for like a 10-hour camp with Mason and Down Under. I went to Russia, like St. Petersburg,
Yep.
But who would ever go to that place if I wasn't for flying tunnel, Malaysia, Singapore, like a lot of really cool places. So the free flying tunnel really started to push me in my direction where I wanted to be was a good free flyer, and that was super cool. And once I sort of ticked off all those dreams, not that ever ends, but I enjoyed that process. And then I met a few people who were dabbling in a bit of the base jumping sort of world. Someone that you know very well, Ryan Graney, is actually from my drop zone, and he's the motherfucker that sort of made me bite the bug. We're having a few beers down in his van and stuff, and he tells me about base jumping and his involvement in the scene. And I remember very clearly, I was like, oh, it was late at night when he got there. I said, oh, when's the last time you did a jump, man? Like, when did you do that? And he laughs at me, looks at his watch. He's like, oh, about an hour and a half ago. So as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, mind blowing. Show me the footage, where it is, back to that first tandem ever. Like, tell me everything.
Yep. Yep. It was, it's funny you say Ryan. I've had him on the show. You may have listened to the episode.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have a fucking physical reaction just hearing the name Ryan Graney because he's such a unique dude, and he's so, I mean, out there in the best way. We had a great conversation on the podcast, and this is we did it in person in Dubai, and he shows up wearing this jacket that he used to wear, like a blazer that he used to wear around Dubai that's like the Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's just this outrageous jacket that he would wear. So he shows up in that. I open the door and he's like, I figured you'd want me in something like this for the episode. And I'm like, this is gonna be a good episode. And I think we talked for like an hour and a half, 2 hours with the podcast and pre and post, and drank a lot and had just a fucking great time. And give him a hug and he leaves. And I'm like, all right, that was an awesome episode. And about 45 minutes later, I hear a ding on my phone and I pick it up and he sent me a picture from the top of a fucking building. And all I'm thinking is my vision's just fuzzy enough that I had to work to open the message, and he's standing on top of a building. And then the next picture is, of course, him with a big smile on his face and some fucking lines and canopy over his shoulder. And I'm like, this guy's out of his fucking mind in the best way.
Yeah, definitely an infectious energy human being and stuff. And when he told me about his dream, he was in Adelaide that time. I'm moving over there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and you hear a lot of people say that in your life, but he went and did it, man. And I got to watch it for so long. And as a younger, naive sort of jumper, and he started like flying the wingies and doing some pretty gnarly shit. I remember texting him all the time, like, bro, I love you. Like, please, like, please make good decisions. And he's like, I am, bro. I got you. It's all sweet, you know. And he opened up a lot of that things for me, you know. Like he was the sort of the first original idea to for me to want to do that next stage in the jumping, and I did, and I followed it, and it's been the best like time ever.
Now, throughout all of this, you had mentioned your mom had visited you in the hospital after your injury and stuff. What does the family think of all this shit? Because it sounds to me like from a very young age, you were pretty responsible out getting a job that you've had for quite a long time now. Were they like, wait a second, why are you jumping out of airplanes? Now, why are you jumping off of shit?
Yeah, like to be clear, I wasn't very responsible. I've always just had a fantastic work ethic, and I'm so glad of that. And that probably definitely came from my dad, who was just like hard ass worker, like forever. He was a painter and a handyman sort of thing. And I remember even school holidays, that would come and grab me. He said, "You're coming to work with me. We're doing night shifts on buildings in Adelaide, sort of thing. So I think that's where it come from. And I was just so grateful that I had a job to supply money for the thing that I loved. So I was like, just, you can fuck up everywhere else, but just don't fuck up at work. And and that was the thing. I'd never ever had a sick day, like forever. I never had one of those unless I was dying.
Sure.
And when I called up work, when I'd done my back, right, yeah, they were just like, sweet, no worries, let us know when you're ready. We'll run it all on sick leave till you're back, and we believe in you that if we go over on that, you'll make it good, and which I did. So, but back to what my dear old mother thought of it all. Like, she was stoked. So I was always a rat bag with a skater, and then started jumping. She was like, that's pretty extreme, but pretty interested about it, Followed my things, and then she came out for like one of mine or her birthdays, and she's like, sweet, if I can give birth to you and your siblings, I can definitely jump out of a plane. So she come for a jump, and I got to be in the plane and
Nice.
and watch that happen. And then my sister come one, I got to come and fly with her, and then she come and did another one, to the point where I was starting to free fly, and I actually got to really OVS and do some really cool stuff in front of her, and that kind of blew her mind. So they were pretty stoked. And obviously once I had that crash, they were like, please be careful, but at least you're out there enjoying yourself. And then I did all the travel, and I went to all these places, and they were just like, look, I don't care how gnarly and crazy the decisions you're making, like you're living life to the max, and they're full supporters of that.
Which is awesome. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. My mom has made a jump. My brother-in-law's made a jump. My dad's made a jump. My nephew's made a jump, and my daughter's made a couple of jumps. And I've always been on the plane or flown with them. But as weird as it is, I can't take them on tandems. Like I I don't know why, because I know I'm a good tandem instructor, but I just couldn't get around strapping my mom to me or my daughter to me. Like, I set my daughter up with the hot Italian instructor because I knew she'd love being, given all this attention by this great guy.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm like, what kid wants to be strapped to their dad? Like, no, I get it. And so I got to jump with her, but I couldn't handle the responsibility of taking them. I don't know why. I can't wrap my head around that. I guess probably because if I slid them in too hard or twisted an ankle or something, I'd never forgive myself, and I'd also never hear the end of it.
You'd probably put so much pressure on yourself that, like, I've always been like that when the CI were doing a demo or something, and he looks at me, he's like, don't fuck this up, That's when I start to panic and stuff, and then not to do it. It's like, if you didn't say that, I'm sweet, So
Right.
I've never taken any of my family either, My sister's super keen, but once I got my 10 rating, I was like, wait a year or two till I'm good, and that was the good agreement. And then she had a child, and then she's like, a little bit skeptical, just for myself now. My mum, have that little instincts for a while.
Yeah.
And now my little niece is 4 now, and then my sister's like, cool, I think I'm ready and keen to come with you. So I haven't done it yet, and I'll probably freak me out.
Yeah, it really was weird. I mean, because generally I tend to handle pretty high pressure situations pretty good. Like in regard to tandems, I did an episode of Mythbusters way back when, and they, of course, non-jumpers really don't have any concept of what flying a canopy is really like and what tandems are like. And so they set up their fucking cameras with the one and only mine that I have to land directly in the center of the pea pit, right in front of the camera. So I've got this wall of fucking cameras and people right in front of me, and I have to land like 4 feet in front of them. I can't overshoot, nothing can go wrong. Pretty fucking high pressure, and I had to do it 2 times in a row, and I managed to nail it both times. But then it's the low pressure shit that I'm gonna fuck up. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, and on camera too. You know, like
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
every skydiver knows. You know, you've gone and done those. You know, those fun jumps where you get in the plane, and you're like in your rust, and you didn't bring your camera. Your mate had a camera now or didn't bring a camera. Those jumps are epic. They're
Yeah.
so good, and you never get to record them.
Yeah.
And then where's that camera where you know you're jumping to somewhere technical and you know there's like the news or there's someone there? Adds so much pressure, unnecessary pressure, like to yourself, and we do it to ourselves, you know.
Of course. Oh, absolutely. Now, as I mean, obviously you're still working full time and doing that and jumping on the weekends and everything. Are there any big plans, any new milestones you're looking to hop over in skydiving or base jumping?
Um, Definitely the wingsuiting. Jumping back to that little situation, you know, as an angle flyer or a free fly coach, you know, and I was just always saying to the boys, learn how to fly your body, you know, like fly your body because a lot of people that's their dream to jump in a wingsuit real quick. So we'd always like rip on them when they're landing off, like, you know, learn how to fly your body, chuck on a suit later. So that was my mentality. I was just so caught up in, you know, like free flying and angle flying. I thought it was the best thing you could do in skydiving. And then for a while we'd do that. And then it's when the base started to kick in, you know, so people have been doing that for about 6 years now as well. So started like going to Europe. I did a learn to base jump course with Dukes and Sam. Did a couple of seasons, you know, slick, and then moved up to the onesie and realized how just phenomenal flying next to a cliff, you know, in a tracking suit was. And then I went, cool. The goal in life and has been forever is to maybe one day exit some wingsuit base jumping. You know, that's some people want to have a family and buy houses and do this. My dream is to one day wingsuit base jump. That's
Sure.
my goal. So for the last year, probably not even a year, maybe like, you know, like 8 to 9 months, that's my number one focus now is my fun jumping is purely going to be orientated around wingsuit flying. And the best thing is there's a massive crew of really talented wingsuiters in my state. And I'm very lucky because I've spent a lot of time teaching all those boys, all the free flying, the angle flying, some fundamentals. And then I stayed with that and they moved to wingsuiting. So now it's my time to jump in and be the student to them. They're all super happy, so ready to lend a hand and to pay some of that back and have the confidence in me because I've got a lot of free fly jumping that I'm going to make some good decisions, you know. And so they've been teaching me a lot. So that's my goal and plan for the next 6 months is full-time wingsuit fun jumping.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like you're going about it exactly the right way because the ones that I get nervous for are the ones that have, you know, done a handful of wingsuit jumps and they're already on the trek to the exit point and getting ready to huck stuff. And I mean, base jumping is what it is. You know, we've all lost people in base jumping. We've all heard the stories. We know, especially with wingsuit base jumping, that's that razor's edge, you know. I mean, and it's funny because I've talked to so many people that do it now. I know that there are a number of what are considered safe exits and safe lines to fly on the wingsuits, which is absolutely wonderful. But I also remember when those lines didn't exist and people were, you know, having to find them, and some found them the hard way. So when I have somebody like you telling me that they're taking all this time to prepare and slowly work their way into it, that makes me feel good because that's a good decision being made. That's someone planning out exactly what needs to be done and planning for that success that other people take for granted.
It's so crazy watching, like, especially the year just gone, like 32 fatalities. Like,
Yeah.
it's so hard watching your one sole kind of goal that I'm working to in life be reminded to you pretty much it seems like every single week that people with 10 times more skill, experience, and talent than you are
Yeah.
dying
Yeah.
and still wanting to fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that's crazy. Like, I do get that.
But I'll tell you what, every skydiver that's out there has had to cross that line to some degree, right? The first time there was a fatality in my sphere in the sport, I was very, very young in jumping, and you have to go to bed that night realizing someone died doing what you're planning on doing the very next day. And you have to make that decision. You have to go, all right, this is me, I guess. I'm willing to continue doing what I'm doing, knowing that that might be the end. And I hate the whole, oh, they died what they are, they died doing what they loved. I fucking hate that statement. It might be true, but I fucking hate it. A friend of mine, Matt Munting, passed away a few years back, and I always, in my mind, figured that the last thing that he thought was that he was pissed off that that's how it was ending. Like, I don't think he was happy in that moment. Obviously the goal was what he was thrilled about, but I still think you have to wake up every day and go, all right, no, I understand what the price that I might have to pay for this is, and then you do everything to avoid having to pay it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the way it happened to Matt, that was fucking,
Oh man,
that would suck. It wasn't even like flying his dream line, so.
No, I guarantee he was mad. I guarantee he was fucking pissed off.
Yeah, for sure. When I first flew some of those first like onesie jumps, actually started to fly like with a bit of rock nearby in my peripherals. As I flew that, I was like, this, I understand. I get it why everyone, like pushes so hard. This feeling is like probably worth, like me pursuing no matter what.
Sure.
And then you get home from Europe, you've obviously been on a, like a 2 or 3 month buzz, and you get home, you're like, fuck, how are those decisions getting made in my head while I was in free fall, So it's very easy to get caught up, and I understand. I think if I lived in Europe or someone like that, like it probably wouldn't be good for me, because I'll be like, I would want to charge all the time.
Sure.
And the thing is, like, when we do a season as Aussies, a season is only, I've done trips 2 months, 3 months. This year, we're probably going to go for 6 weeks, because that's all that's going to fit into our schedule for this year, because we've got so much going on. And we call that a season, and like sometimes we convince ourselves into like, I've done like 4 seasons now, like I'm probably ready for the next step. And that's where I'm at right now. And I've got a lot of my friends who are very experienced, and a lot of them that are wingsuit base jumping. I'm so lucky to have the best mentors around me. So that's where I feel real comfortable.
Sure.
And the dream this year is to take my wingsuit over there and potentially do some jumps. But I've got so many people around me who are going to keep an eye on me on the next 6 months, see how I'm traveling, see how my skills are going, and see if I'm ready. And I've got no problem with any one of them at any point having a chat to me saying there's always another year. And I'm aware of that.
And that's the mentality you need to have. It really is. I mean, I just had a recent conversation again with one of your countrymen, Jeff Weatherall.
Yeah, Jeff's cool.
Jeff's fucking amazing. We've had a couple of great conversations, and he's obviously very into base jumping and very into wingsuit flying and all that, and he has yet to go to Europe. Like that's his big dream, is I need to hit Europe to go do this, because after all of this stuff that I've done, I've still never actually gotten to go to someplace like Brento or all the other iconic places that he wants to go. So I suppose it doesn't matter how much experience you've got under your belt, people are still wanting to do the exact same thing.
Absolutely. When I heard that on the show, I was like, what? That was so crazy to me, because he's been one of the guys in Australia, obviously New Zealand, but pushing the sport and making like good decisions for a long time, and it's like, and to hear that was like, oh, cool. That's super awesome. Everyone's on their own journey,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, first off, give people the rundown of the operation that you're at, how they can come out and do a jump with you. If it's somebody that's looking to make their first tandem, they want to come out and jump with you, or get some coaching or all that kind of stuff, or just want to shoot the shit. How do they find you on social media? And then how do they find your drop zone?
SA is awesome because we have like 2 major club drop zones, and then we have a couple of different like tandem only locations. Majority of them are Cessna, small aircraft. And I have always thought this would be funny if we all came together, we could have a massive drop zone and a massive plane. It would be awesome, but never going to happen. So but because we're a small state, we're all friends, we're all family. Everything's super awesome, like together, So I jump everywhere, and I work within all of the different like skydive operations. Right now, I'm jumping into like a super bougie winery in McLaren Vale. We take a limousine from the winery 10 minutes down the road to the airport where we take off. So we sit in the back of it's like a 90s limo, man. It's so funny when you're in the back of it. I say to all the passengers, like, oh, imagine the stories that are happening in this thing, So it's like I'm sitting in a limo as I do all my briefs at the airport. We fly over the coast, which Adelaide beaches are absolutely stunning, right? So fly over the beach, we can see all around the coast, and then we land back at a high, quality, beautiful, manicured grass, perfect winery. We give them a voucher. They go inside and drink wine, and because it's bougie, we can charge them, which means like I get a good cut of that. It's probably the highest, like paid for the instructors that I known about even in the country. So most of the time we're jumping into the winery and it's absolutely stunning. So Skydive the Vines is where I'm doing most of my tandems at the moment. I'm doing a lot of coaching between SA Skydiving, which is also another beautiful club drop zone that we owned, or Lower Light, which is another one which I'm about to run a bit of like angles coaching and event coming up. So this year I'm really going to be dedicated on running a lot of coaching of events, because last year I was kind of focused just on the base and the traveling. This year I want to bring it back to the locals and the club and support everything. So hit me up on Vince_Jarvis is my Insta, or just Vince Jarvis on Facebook. Any events that I'm going to run will be posted up there, or just give us a holler if you can for a chat. I'm always open.
Awesome. Well, and I look forward to following Instagram to see how the journey goes with potentially the wingsuit base in Europe and updates on that progress specifically. Obviously, that's going to be pretty fucking exciting for you, and then for anybody that's following along. This year's going to be massive for me and my mates, So me and my homie Brody Shepherd, we do everything together. We travel together. He's my travel agent. He books everything for me, and we go hard. So shout out to all my friends that I'm traveling this year. So let's get it. Dude, fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, Vince, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to sit down. I know it's your evening there, so now you get to kick back, have a couple of beers, and relax. But as always, it was a great conversation, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Thanks, Dean. Thanks for supporting so many Aussies lately too. It's so good to watch all my my local heroes getting a shout out. So yeah, boy, thanks. It. All right, take it easy. Thanks, Dean. Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available. Hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
front, get on the front, get on the